Good evening, everyone. It's great. I would like to continue in this atmosphere, and I hope that in the next minutes that God will make us aware of things in our life He wants to point us through. In the next minutes, I would love to think about with you a bit more about God's plan for our well-being, of course. If you're new here today, very warm welcome to you. We as a church, we are now in a series of living well, and we are looking at different areas in our lives, and we ask God what His plan is, how we can live well. Together with this book here, normally it's not broken, it's called God's Plan for Your Well-Being from Dave Smith. And you will already know this book if you're here the last weeks, and you will also know that the last weeks, it's all about emotional well-being right now. And today we want to take a step from emotional well-being into spiritual well-being. So this sermon will have two parts. This is the right way, right? This is not a swearing, okay. So this sermon will have two parts. And we're starting at emotional well-being and ask how a focused life helps our emotional being and enables us to live in the presence of God. This is spiritual well-being. I would like to start and asking you a question, and this question you can just answer for yourself and you don't have to tell anyone. Apart from our Sunday services here, when was your last time in the presence of God? Was it this morning? Was it last week or month? Or was it maybe longer ago? I have two circles for you of living this day. The first circle shows a rhythm of an unfocused life, and the other presents how to live in a better way, where being in the presence of God can take place regularly. When you're saying it's a long time ago that you had the last time in the presence of God, perhaps this circle might sound familiar to you, and I think that most of the people around us in our society, and we're living sometimes like this, me included. So, imagine a normal day in life, you're coming home, or I'm coming home from work, and technically my work is over, but my mind is still working. I'm feeling driven. Technically, my work is over. I could actually relax now. There's no work to do, but I couldn't calm down. And I'm still in this half-stressed tension mode. And when I'm in this mode, there are still messages coming in, emails, and people want that I reply and whatever. And this feels really exhausting. But instead to get in deep rest and to go into the silence would maybe feel threatening, so I decide to distract myself. Do you know that from your life? You don't really relax, you just search something where you can park yourself. When you think of your favorite distraction, for me it's, for example, my phone, when do they happen? Often I think in the evening, and then I'm not going early to bed. When I try to sleep then when I'm going to bed, all these things are still in my mind, and it's hard to rest and get sufficient sleep. Poor sleep is then one reason why my performance is poor. But not only because I have less sleep in general, because of being distracted at work, my performance is declining. When you look at the statistics, something seems wrong. We're working less than the generations before us. For example, 100 years ago, the average worker worked around 60 hours a week. And today, we're just working a bit less than 40 hours on average here in England. But at the same time, the mental health issues like, for example, burnout are going up. What we can see through that is that mental health issues are not mainly because of too much work. I think one of obviously many reasons is this circle. We are not able enough to live life in a healthy pattern of rest and performance. Or to say it positive, I think over the last years, the skill of rest and focus become more important, and we should learn how to do it. This year becomes more and more the normal way in our society of live our life if you don't try to defend yourself against this. We are living, some expert would say it, as we're living at an economy of attention. Means that your attention brings money for Google, Instagram, Meta, and all these tech companies. If you're longer on your device and scrolling through websites, they can put adverts to you and they're earning money through that. So, the longer your life looks like this, the better for every adverse-financed company in this world. And this is why your phones try to keep you as long as possible at attention. This is a big thing, and if you're interested, I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it already, this Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. Don't try to put you now on screens, but just to watch maybe this sort of documentary. It's amazing and opened my mind, and I highly recommend this to you if you haven't watched this. So, 100 years ago, you had less stress, less advertisement, and a slower world. Today, the world looks different. So we have to learn how to live life in a world like this in a healthy way. If you don't decide yourself to defend against attraction, at some point you will find this circle in your life. This is especially important, I think, for the younger generation. And as I asked you in the beginning, when was your last time in the presence of God? When you're living like this, I think perhaps you have managed it recently with great effort, but I assume that the presence of God is not a constant foundation in your life. For our emotional well-being, this is bad. So, what could be a better way to live? What is a focused life where the presence of God can take place regularly? And if you're Christians or not, these principles I want to show you are valuable for you as well. A life for which we are actually made for looks like this. We're starting at a point of deep rest. You can't have rest all the time, but you need rest at least at one time a day. Of course, you have to work, so you don't have to can't rest. But you need time where you can calm down, where you can be present and learn to focus yourself, to slow down. In October, we talked a lot about Sabbath. Or, for sure, I remember that we talked a lot about Sabbath, because the first Sunday we've been here were with Chris, and we had to hear her talk about Sabbath 3 times a day. So this was really stuck into my mind. And thank you so much, because what I remember from your talk is you talked about creation and how God created our world, and that He created in a rhythm of rest and work. There was night and there was day, another day. And so this is how God created our life, in this rhythm of rest and performance. I believe through this rest, you can develop a focus. And this focus is also positive for your work. And because you are focused, you can bring good performance at work. So in this rhythm, you're coming home from work and you know, oh, I've done well, I've performed well, and it's easier for you to get to rest, to get sufficient sleep in the evening, because you know, I've done well, work makes fun, and you're getting better in what you're doing. This balance between rest and work is how we are created. This is how a focused life can look like. It means that we have time for both, for rest and for work. I would like to zoom in a bit more in this area here, because through this area we will get the energy for all our day. When I hear the word focus, I have to think of a camera. You know, on the camera there we have this focus, and when I look into this camera, I can see many different things, just the normal world behind my camera. And through this focus, I decide which element I want to concentrate on. Everything around this element is getting blurred. And I think this is what focus means in our lives as well, to concentrate on the one thing that is really important for us. A tool that helped me a lot of focus myself in different tasks in my life. And this tool we are seeing on the screen in a few seconds. This tool helped me a lot, and I'm sure you have seen this for some point already and you know this, but sometimes it's good to be reminded. We are having a table of four parts, and it says that we are having important and urgent things in our lives. We're having important but not urgent things. We're having not important and not urgent things. And we're having not important but urgent things. Now you can check which task of your life or what thing you're doing in your life fits where. So at the right top, here are things you will do right away anyway, so they're checked. For example, a fire alarm. You don't even have to think about, oh, do I want to go out now? No, you're running. Or no, maybe because of safety reasons, you're going slow and right. But this is very important and very urgent. So you don't even have to think about. Or, for example, a bit more life-relatable, you booked a weekend trip, you booked a house somewhere, and this is next weekend, but you haven't booked the train to this destination. So this is also important and urgent. You don't even have to think about, oh, do I want to book it? You want it. And the bottom left, these not urgent and not important things, these are the distractions in our life you don't want. These things are these things where you park yourself and just scrolling through the internet for hours, or bad habits you have. The other two areas, these are the areas most of us would spend most of our time in, and it's sometimes difficult to decide which is which. Because when we think of urgent things in our life, it feels like they are important, but actually they are not. People with a good focus are trying to spend most of their time in the top left area, in important but not urgent things. These things are these things you forget in a stressful time. For example, sport, healthy eating, time with Jesus, learning new things in your life. These things are not urgent, but super important. And you won't notice it after a few days, but you will notice it on a long run. Which areas do you spend most of your time in? Helpful for us Christians is, if you don't know how important different things are in your life, you can take them and ask God what He thinks about it. He will give you perspective of what's really important in your life and what's not. So this all here is one small step into a focused life. This will help our emotional well-being and enables us to live in the presence of God regularly. As I said, that we as a Christian, we can ask God what's really important. So you don't only start with deep rest. What we're Christians starting is, we're starting with deep presence. We were not starting with deep rest, and what deep rest was about was just emotional well-being. Now we're taking the step into spiritual well-being, and we want to start with deep presence, where we get the focus for our life. I would like to practice this deep presence with you in an exercise now. And if you don't have a regular prayer to say, you can try this in your personal time with God, for example. This is just one prayer, and this prayer you will find in the book if you want to do it for your own as another time. And when we finish the prayer and you say, oh, that was quite nice, I would like to have some versions of this. I printed out some versions of prayer to focus ourselves, and these are laid out on these table next to the AV desk where the coffee flask are normally in. You will find it in behind, and they are prayers from the Diocese of Oxford, and they made them, and if you like, you can take them with you. There's also a link where you can download them online, and I find them really helpful. So, we want to pray now, and this prayer is a prayer developed from Father Ignatius, and it's based on Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24. The psalmist writes there, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." The exercise we want to do works like this now. First, we have 5 steps through this prayer, and I will introduce what we're doing in this time, and then you have 2 minutes or 3 minutes time to reflect for yourself and ask God what's on this step in this prayer. Then we finish together with a sentence you will see on the slides. We're going through this prayer. You're ready? So take a comfortable position, making your back straight and good. Place your feet on the ground, making you ready to enter into the presence of God. We're starting with thanks. What are the things you are grateful for? Thank God for all He has done in your life. We are responding together. God, I thank you for all the good and the bad things I've experienced in my life. Search. Sensitive yourself in the convicting work of the Holy Spirit by praying, "Search me, God." Let God show you the things that are holding you back from freedom. We are all saying together, God, if there is anything else, please bring it to my attention at the right time. Review. Look back on your last day or week and review it. Where have the interactions and circumstances of your life led you towards God or away from God? We're all saying together, God, thank you for being at work in all the experiences of the past week. Confess. Ask God to forgive you for everything you have become aware in step 2 and 3. Receive God's forgiveness and experience His love. we are responding together. God, you have brought us back to yourself. Forgive us our sins and show us your love. Abide. We cannot live a life that honors God in our own strength. We need His abiding presence and His love. Please stand for this last part of this prayer, and the band can come up. I would like to pray Ephesians 3:16 and 19 for you. In this prayer, Paul prayed to the Christians in Ephesus. It's about His abiding presence in your life. After this prayer, you can remain standing for a time of worship. I pray that out of His glorious riches He may strengthen you with power through His Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with the measure of all the fullness of God. Amen.